Fantastic. Excellent. So welcome everybody for today's Shaper event where we have Vectorworks Maestro, Jonathan Reeves, joining us. And Jonathan runs his own architecture company here in the UK. You're up in Loughborough, is that right, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've got family up here, moved up to the middle of the UK, right to be right in the centre these days.
Fantastic. And you're going to be giving us a bit of a showcase on some of the new things that a tool like Vectorworks can do, and some of the render engines that you've been pairing it with. And I know that the majority of people here are Vectorworks users. There's a few people who are using different bits of software. It would be just good actually just to put in the chat box what is the primary piece of software that you guys use for CAD? Vectorworks, Chad's on Revit, and the render engines work with all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to talk about a few different ways of doing real-time rendering. I thought it'd be quite nice to show you three bits of software that can do what I would regard as real-time rendering, starting with Vectorworks actually, and then we'll move on to probably just touch on Enscape, if that's okay. And I'll show you some, we'll talk about Enscape and I'll show you some results. Probably the bulk of the talk, I'd like to focus on Twinmotion. And the reason for that is, A, it's really good, but secondly, it's cross-platform. And I know a lot of my clients, and probably yours, are Mac users as well as PC users. So Twinmotion's a good choice for lots of people for various reasons. So yeah, that's the plan.
Brilliant. Great. Well, why don't you take it away, Jonathan?
Good. Okay. So I'll just introduce myself very briefly. So here I am, Jonathan Reeves. I've been doing sort of Vectorworks and CAD and 3D for, I say, over 20 years now. We're based in Loughborough. Here we are. If you don't know where Loughborough is in the UK, right in the middle, as I said. It's a good location, actually, for traveling around and exploring the country, which is something we like to do as well. Only an hour and a half from London, though. Over the years, I like to pop this image in as a little reminder, guys. This was my master's degree project. Modeling this took me about 3 weeks at the time. The rendering for a 640 by 480 pixel image, tiny, took 72 hours. My computer whirring away in the student room. Do you remember those days? Maybe some of you do. But seriously, I was so blown away with the image. I blew it up to A1, hence all this pixelation. But, I was really chuffed with it at the time. So being an early adopter, I've seen quite a big lot of change, and gosh, things are accelerating now, as I say, with AI and all this stuff coming on board. It's kind of almost a bit scary, I'd say, but we're here. So things have moved on very rapidly. And basically, these days, what I do is provide sort of Zoom training from my office, but also globally via Zoom as well. Over the years, I've also developed a YouTube channel, so you guys may be familiar with my channel. That was a bit from a while ago. I've got about 13,000 subscribers now, so love to see you join. It's Jonathan Reeves CAD on YouTube. And of course, I'll be reposting Ryan's lovely video here if we get the chance. Good. Okay, so let's talk about sort of real-time rendering. I also have another website called realtimerendering.com. Quite a good domain I'm proud of, where I really focus on just the Twinmotion and the Enscape side of rendering, as well as the Jonathan Reeves CAD, which is my Vectorworks one. And finally, just to sort of summarize, I have written a couple of books, actually. The first book was on Vectorworks, that was a few years ago, but my most recent book I'd like to just show you at the end is a Twinmotion book, and I'm very proud of that. And one thing that I did in the book, which was really amazing, was reached out to some world famous, or in my regard, really renowned artists that were all over the world. You can see Anne Pham here, based in the US, actually. Amazing work. In fact, I actually chose his work for the front cover because it was so nice. So I'll just sort of touch on that later, if I may, and show you a couple of pages. Good. Okay, so let's hop into the live demoing, and just in case I crash out or anything, I've actually got a video here which I can play just as a sort of safety zone.
Good
Right.
Good preparation.
Well prepared. But let me flick on to Vectorworks. Good. Here I am in Vectorworks. Now, you might not regard Vectorworks as a real-time renderer, but it depends what you mean by the term real-time rendering. If what you mean is you get a slightly sort of immersive experience that you can experience walking around in real time, I would say that qualifies as real-time rendering. Now, this isn't realistic. In fact, it's the opposite. It's designed to be very graphical. And I quite like working this way when I'm doing some early concepts. I will just make the point, credit for the practice who designed this project. It's Fruition Design. This is one of my practices I've trained and look after, but it's a very nice little project I wanted to just share with you. So guys, all I've done here, if you're interested in how I've created this render effect, I'll just pop up into my render settings. And you can see basically all I've done is disable the textures. So it's quite a neat little trick. And I've also disabled colors. I've got the shadows on. I've still got the shadows on, which is why you still get that nice lighting and shadowing. Again, get quite a nice effect if you do turn it off. And I've also got the edges on, just so you get that definition of the graphic. Can you see? So it works really, really well, this new shaded option. Now, this is Vectorworks 2013, which I think's really leapt on, and you'll see why from earlier versions. Okay, so sometimes when I'm sort of presenting concepts and I don't want to talk about the materials with the client too often, I just want to talk about the layout, the space, and kind of the architectural kind of emphasis rather than sort of what color leather there is. Let's move on. Now I'm going to whip down to my save views, and you'll see that I can actually just hop down and just pop down and double click, and it will just kind of regenerate. Just takes a second, and bingo, suddenly here I am in Vectorworks looking completely different to where it looked before with the white card. Okay, so in order to go from where I was to where I am now, let me just show you what I did. Basically, if I turn these options off, I'll talk about those in a second, I'm pretty much back to where I was with the white card. I'll just turn the colors off. Yeah, there we go. I'll just draw edges as well. Okay, so there we are where I was. Let's just put the edges on, turn the colors on, and turn the textures on. Just let it re-render. It doesn't take very long, and I click OK and pop back out, and I'll get all of that lovely materialism that I had in the project. Okay, so using my walkthrough tool, let's have a little kind of drive around. You can see the frame rate is still pretty good, I think. And it looks very graphical, doesn't it? But it's still not sort of realistic, what I call photorealistic. It doesn't need to be at design stage. If anything, the photorealism at early design stage is almost maybe a disadvantage, because often the client thinks that you've finished the design when you're still developing it. So my advice is early on, go for these sort of cartoony or graphic-y kind of rendering styles, and don't be tempted to go too realistic too soon. Okay, so finally, just in Vectorworks, these were some very nice new features that they added, which make a huge difference. Okay, so the first feature was object-based reflections, and you can just see, if I turn those on, just watch these tables. Yeah, so now if I turn on environmental reflections, look how it steps up to a whole nother level. And finally, if I turn environmental lighting on, you know, so those three little new options really made a big difference, I think, to the real-time rendering quality without really much penalty as you drive around. So the real benefit here is I can kind of set up all these saved views. If you ever want to know how to do that, you literally just, you know, just navigate through to the view. Let's say I wanted this view, and I click save view, and just give it a name, new view. And that means it gets added in here. So I can basically just jump to all my different views of the project. Well, it's very responsive, Vectorworks, and that's what I really love about working in my actual CAD design software. It can handle very, very large files, I find, whereas I always found with SketchUp, it would kind of grind to a halt once you got this level of complexity and curvature. Vectorworks doesn't with curves, it can handle it very well. So, you know, for me, that's a big plus. You can see. And also the fact that I can kind of change my views using my keyboard to get these orthogonal sort of views. And if I do want to pop into perspective, you know, I can just enable that with a single click on my button bar.
And is this the same model then that this practice would be using for all of their two-dimensional drawings, or have they built this specifically for three-dimensional imagery, and then they have a kind of simpler model for the drawings?
No, this will be the model that they used. Say Fruition Design, I've worked with them for many years, actually. Gosh, one of my oldest clients, I worked with them so long. I did a bit of tweaking on the model, but they did, honestly, 90% of the model. And all I've really done is tweak a bit on the rendering and the lighting and stuff. And you'll see where I went with it next in a minute. So yeah, basically we can kind of generate elevations and sections and plans and stuff as well. Now, I haven't got that in this file, but that's something that I demonstrated before on previous projects for you. So these are the benefits, I think, of real-time rendering in your actual native CAD software. This nice ability just to be able to kind of really kind of move through the space. And as I say, just by a few clicks, that's pretty impressive, don't you think? Really makes a big difference. So this kind of technology is just come in this year. Previously, I could do stuff, but it didn't look as good. I didn't have the reflections in real time. And when I sort of teach people to do the Vectorworks 2D to 3D conversion courses, guys, I tend to break it down into online 3 hours at a time for a bigger group or 2 hours for individuals, and do it weekly or bi-weekly potentially, and just keep going until you get there. But normally after 3 to 4 to 5 sessions, which is not a lot of time, people are getting there, and then they sometimes come back with advanced questions. But it's not a massive commitment to change your workflow completely from 2D one software to 3D in another, to bring it all together. It's only sort of 10 to 12 hours training to get you to see the benefit and get you going on it, I'd say. So it's not a huge commitment. Okay, definitely worthwhile. The amount of time saved is phenomenal. Excellent. Are you seeing my screen okay, guys?
I think Rob's got a question.
Hi, Rob.
Hi. Are all your objects Vectorworks objects?
Yes, yeah, they're but Vectorworks is pretty wide in that it can import into Vectorworks from SketchUp or 3D Studio. Loads of different file formats can come in if I need like furniture items and stuff. But it has a lot of other built-in furniture and good libraries too. Definitely.
So they're not all parametric objects then?
Not all of them, no. There are parametric objects for even things like tables and chairs, but the walls, the windows and the doors and all the architectural stuff is, and then obviously you prop it out with other additional items for the furniture. Some of it is custom modeled. And in a way you need that parametric nature, but you also need the custom 3D modeling capabilities of something like SketchUp, but within your CAD software, yeah? So you got that flexibility. Good. Okay, let me talk about, if I made the next bit of software though. So the next bit of software that you might be interested to have a look at is Enscape. This is Enscape now on the Mac actually, which is nice. Not everybody may be aware, but there is a version on the Mac now. It's on the PC for years. It's on the Mac. It's early days on the Mac. There's still a few features like animation and a few features that aren't fully there yet on the Mac, but they are developing. And I managed to get some really, really blown away renders using my Mac and SketchUp. Okay, so the reason I did SketchUp, Mark, is because Enscape and SketchUp on the Mac work natively. Okay. However, in a minute, I will roll on to how I used Vectorworks with Enscape as well.
That's from SketchUp to Enscape.
This is SketchUp to Enscape on my little MacBook laptop, an M1 Pro, year old. Great renders, really nice. And look at the quality of these renders. So all I did was change the lighting, literally scroll through the time of day. No extra lighting. I was very pleased with that one. I was pretty blown away by the quality. So keep an eye on Enscape because the rendering quality is very good and the speed is pretty good. I think, as I say, features on the Mac side a little bit limited, but coming. And on the PC, it's great, and it works natively with Vectorworks, just as a sort of plugin for Vectorworks or SketchUp. What do you think, guys? It's quite nice, isn't it? The different sort of quality of lighting I can get in that space just by varying the time of day.
That's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I was blown away, literally. So very, very exciting that we've now got this capability on the Mac. This is interesting in that what it does, it kind of calculates lighting levels. So this sort of diagram is quite nice in that it can almost calculate the lux or the lighting levels on different surfaces. So it's a very sort of diagrammatic view, of course. Now, if you are interested, there is a workflow that I made a video for on my channel. I won't go into the detail, but basically these renders, this little group here, were done on Enscape for Mac, but using Vectorworks, okay? Which is interesting because Vectorworks and Enscape aren't compatible yet on the Mac. On the PC they are, but not on Mac. So what I did, I exported my Vectorworks 3D model into another bit of software, and it's called, a great little bit of software, it's called Transmuter. Where is it? See if I can find it. Here it is, it's called Transmuter, not Tomb Raider, but Transmuter. Lovely bit of software, not expensive. And what it does is pretty remarkable. It can import lots of different file formats. Sorry, let me go back to my presentation. It can import file formats like FBX or 3D Studio or Collada, lots of file formats, and then convert them to native SketchUp. And it does a good job, okay? So what I did, I took my Vectorworks model, I think I exported as an FBX model, and I opened it up in SketchUp. And this is how it looked when I clicked the button for Enscape. Pretty remarkable. So even though there was an extra step in between Vectorworks and Enscape, which hopefully there won't be soon, I was pretty blown away by the renders that I could get from my Vectorworks model. There was a few things like you see these cushions got a bit faceted. Maybe that could have been sorted in the settings, but you know, there's a few issues. But it's still pretty good, isn't it, for real-time rendering on the Mac from Vectorworks, I would say. So that's interesting. So again, keep an eye on the development of Enscape for the Mac. And if you are using Vectorworks, there is a workaround which you can use using that Transmuter software as well.
Robert's got a question.
Hey, Rob.
How much post-production is involved in your process?
None. No, these are raw images. As I say, these are raw Enscape images from SketchUp, which did look good. But I have to say the reason they look so good, because this was a, if you like, an Enscape demo model that they give you, which already you know is going to look top notch. Yeah, that's why it looks so good. Whereas the reason these don't look as good is because this was just a Vectorworks model and it wasn't prepped for Enscape necessarily. It just came across with my Vectorworks textures, but they look pretty good. You know, I was impressed. So, you know, not quite as good as the other ones, but impressive nonetheless. I love the reflections. One thing that I think, you know, as a Mac user, Apple, great chips, you know, the M1 and now the M2 chips are fantastic. They're quiet, they run all day, you know, they don't make any noise and no heat, very low power. And they have this amazing integrated GPU and core system. But unfortunately, you know, I still don't think they're there on the ray tracing. They don't compete with the RTX graphics cards for ray tracing. So I'm really not sure how Enscape and V-Ray have done the ray tracing or the reflections and things. I don't know what technology they're using, but they get some good results, definitely. So I was pretty impressed. Good. So, any more questions on the Enscape side before I then move on to maybe my third bit of software, which I recommend is Twinmotion? Please, Ryan.
So can you do, you know, the way that you were kind of navigating around the space in real time? Can you do that in Enscape and Vectorworks, or is it only still images that you can do?
No, completely. What's really nice about Enscape is it sits side by side. So if I had my other screen here, I could be in Vectorworks on one screen and be in Enscape on the other screen on a two-screen setup, which is really nice.
Right.
Again, it does the same for SketchUp basically as well. Yeah.
It also does the same for Revit. So there's a plugin directly inside of Revit. So you can literally click it and then use a navigator just to walk through in real time. I mean, it looks like you're playing Fortnite or something, you know? So yeah.
That's it. So, and what is nice, I'm not going to sort of show this now, but again, you can watch the videos. You have an asset library of, you know, wine glasses and coffee cups and props, and you can just drag those asset libraries into SketchUp or Vectorworks. and they will appear in Enscape immediately as well. So you can make your architectural model without too many props. And then when you come onto the visualization process, you can add the props just in Enscape. And what they are, it's quite clever. They're proxies, which means they're low polygon in the CAD software. So it might look just really blobby in Vectorworks, but then what happens is the proxy gets translated into a high resolution sofa in Enscape. So the benefit of that is keeps your file size mean and clean and in Vectorworks or Revit or whatever. So that's one thing I really like about Enscape for doing the architectural workflow, then propping it out for the visualization workflow. Make sense? So it sort of sits on top, really. Good. Any more questions then, or shall I roll on to talk about Twinmotion?
Yeah, go for Twinmotion.
Twinmotion. I did a project a few years ago. Not sure if I can skip through. That basically enabled me to get planning on a very difficult site. But you can see by using a combination of CAD and Twinmotion real-time rendering with really quite slick presentation, it convinced me that if you present a project really well to the planners, who are the, you know, the bane of most architects' lives in the UK, I'd say, Rion nodding, or probably in America too.
Around the world.
Around the world. Yeah, sorry, planners, but you know, you make our life hard. But you know, I think if you get on board and you show them and you blow them away with a cool presentation, then that really helps. And this project was one that I did that on, and we got the planning. It was quite a groundbreaking project. So that was one from the past. I just want to next roll on to, I'll show you a few examples, but let me just focus on this one for a minute. Okay, so the big difference with Twinmotion and Enscape, shall we say, if you're trying to look for differentials, they were both real-time rendering softwares. Twinmotion is made by Epic Games, okay, who everybody's heard of because, you know, Fortnite and all the gaming community. So Twinmotion has come from that sort of gaming background. And I think in some ways that offers a different emphasis, but what it does offer is a hugely beneficial pathway to take things even further if you want. And I'm not going to show this, but the next stage on from Twinmotion is Unreal Engine, which you might have heard of. Unreal Engine is the kind of king of real-time visualization, but it also is way more than that. It's used in things like The Mandalorian, the film industry, gaming industry. You know, people like Zaha use it for interactive things. I'm sure you've come across articles. It's high-end, guys. It's pretty intense. Learning Unreal Engine is not for the faint-hearted. You know, I know software well, and I've had a dabble. It's amazing, but it's hard. So for most architects who are quite busy people, most designers, you don't really have the time to basically go through everything. So Twinmotion steps in and becomes the Unreal Engine introduction, if you like. There's a stepping stone. It's very easy to use, and that's the beauty with Twinmotion. It's super easy and quick to get good results. Very drag and drop. But you can progress to Unreal Engine when you're ready. So that's something that's really exciting about the Twinmotion side. I just want to mention this project here. In the UK, I did a little project. I'll just run through a few slides. Hi everybody, Jonathan here with another Twinmotion video, and it's the first video of 2023. So of course, Happy New Year to all of my viewers and subscribers. Hope you have a great year ahead. Now we're going to take a look at a really interesting project called Forest Rooms, designed by Ashley Miles, and it's something I collaborated on last year. We basically put this in for an award, and we're very pleased to win AR/VR Project of the Year at the Computing Construction Awards down in London back in November. What you can basically see is that we created really a whole kind of like world, if you like, within the site. You know, these cabins, which were nice sort of environmentally sustainable luxury eco holiday homes, essentially, were placed within the context. So if I just kind of play through a tiny bit more of the video, down the sound a bit and talk you through, you know, where else would you be able to create this in your CAD software? It's just not really possible. Trees, you know, water, atmosphere, beautiful lighting, you know, birds flying around and people moving. Okay, so when I need that to convince the planners or a client or marketing, for me, Twinmotion is absolutely exceptional. The ability to drag in moving people and animate them, particularly if they're in the distance, you don't really have the comment about they look a bit sort of unrealistic then. You can also put still people in that do look a bit more realistic as well. So this was it was a very interesting project, very sort of sustainable project. But again, these serve the purpose of also helping the planners get on board with the particular project. And I think it's in process at the moment, so fingers crossed. But as I say, we did submit it for the award, and really proud to win that, you know, UK award, Construction Computing Awards, AR/VR Project of the Year. The other thing that I did for this project, which was interesting, was created some cloud presentations I'd love to share with you and show you, if I may, in a minute. And if you want, I can even send you the link and you guys can visit later on. So that's an interesting area, that the cloud presentation side allows you to share files and let people walk around and experience almost at this level of quality as well. Jump in.
So is that the kind of thing, if I hooked it up to my Oculus Quest, for example, I could wander around in it?
100%. Yeah, my son's got an Oculus as well. He you know, loves a bit gaming, and I played it the other day, and it's great. You just plug it in. You've got to have a PC, not a Mac, unfortunately. Again, Apple are behind the pace on AR and VR, but I don't think for long. I think this year Apple have some tricks up their sleeve. I've heard rumors and I've seen the videos that they're releasing a headset very shortly. So that will propel things for Mac users. If you can afford it, it'll probably be quite a pricey bit of kit. But yeah, you know, you'll be able to strap your headset on, Ryan, and sort of wander around and, you know, be immersed in this environment, which would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? If I may, let me just show you how this translated to the cloud. So this is the Twinmotion Cloud, which is a very neat trick that Twinmotion has, in that you can publish your drawings, or not your drawings, you publish your model to the cloud, and then it's very easy for me to generate a password if I want to, or just copy the link. I'll put it in the chat. Well, maybe I won't, because if you go there now, this will prevent you watching the Zoom, but I'll put it in the chat for later for you. But there's a couple of different types of presentation. The first one is called a panorama set. Let me just show you this one, because it's pretty cool. Let's click view. So if I were to send you the link, you could look at this on your iPhone or your iPad. You could share this with a client. So literally anybody, anywhere. Okay. So here we are with a very simple navigation that you can learn. And what's nice about this is, because it's a still image, it's a 360-degree spherical image. The difference here is this is not real-time rendering as such, in that this isn't rendering in real time, this is pre-rendered. But the benefit of that is you can render big and you can go for quality. It may be that this image took 10 or 20 minutes to render at the max quality, but you can see the quality is there. I could have gone higher probably. But that's the benefit. And I use path tracing if I want to on a still. But it's very cool. You know, like I can click and almost get the illusion of moving around the space. Do you get it? So I've got a series of little hotspots in here. Sometimes I can't always find them, actually. Let's go back to that one. So yeah, if you think that any client can use this on their phone or their iPad, and just sort of, I really like the way they have done it. So it kind of moves, even though you can see it kind of, I don't know how they've done it, it's clever. It's not doing it in real time, but it's just sort of fading through. And basically you can set up these sort of hotspot panoramic views. So this is a great real-time technology that anybody can access no matter what device they have. They're not limited to high-end stuff, okay? What do you think, guys? You like that?
Very cool.
So those are a few sort of strategies for sharing your real-time renderings. obviously you can give them a still image. You can obviously give them an animation, and I'll, showed you the award-winning one that we did. You can also put it all together in like a little movie editor just to make it slick with some music as well, which is nice. But then I really do like the cloud side where you can kind of share that interactive.
You can do this within Vectorworks as well, but then the quality of the renderings are not so good. But maybe that changed also with the 2000.
Yeah, that's right. Vectorworks has the panoramics and it has the ability to do presentations on the cloud as well. I agree. I personally, if I'm going to do it, I'll probably hop to Twinmotion to do it, just because I know I can get that level of quality that I've just shown you. And I think Vectorworks is great for the early stage and the conceptual stuff and the modeling. I love it, all of that, the drawings, love that. In terms of real-time rendering, Twinmotion and Enscape are ahead, in my view, for sure, in terms of workflow.
I thought I saw some difference in the Enscape and the Twinmotion renderings. I thought the Enscape renderings were a little bit more softer, or
yeah,
is that the difference between the two? Yeah,
I think there are differences in the render engines. Every render engine has its own kind of qualities. I really like Enscape for the interiors, actually. I think it's got the edge. But Twinmotion is great for exterior, lots of grass, trees, kind of environments, mountains. It's fantastic for that. And in Twinmotion, I think for animation is better, personally. This is just my view, guys. I've tested both. So yeah, they have advantages and disadvantages, which is why I really like to use both and not rule out one or the other. So I just want to show you this project, which I've literally just done in the last week or so over Christmas for a client. Sure, they won't mind me showing you. It's basically very different sort of architecture. I get a set of drawings for a project like this. So 2D drawings. It's obviously just a kind of retail unit. However, quite a nicely designed one in some ways. And what I was interested in was the visualization side, the modeling. So I made my model in Vectorworks, and I've rendered these using path tracing on my PC, not the Mac version of Twinmotion. And I think you can see the difference, can't you? In terms of path tracing is ray tracing by another name. And it takes a bit longer, and it's not quite real time yet, unless you've got a super powerful graphics card. But the quality of the renderings that you can get with it, I think, are a big step up from the Mac side. So that's the benefit of the PC, the path tracing, because you've got the GTX, RTX graphics cards. So if you want that level of quality, unfortunately on the Mac, path tracing not there on Twinmotion yet. So you have to have a PC for that level of quality. But, I was pretty pleased with the images. And is that a video? Yeah, I think I've got a video here as well.
So Jonathan, you'll take models from certain clients and build out the renders for them and build out the models for them, or? Yeah,
I do quite a lot of that, Ryan. Are you seeing the animation playing there, or are you still stuck on the other screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of that kind of what I call consultancy work, as well as doing my own projects. I often engage with other architects and designers to use my 3D skills to help them visualize. So it's definitely a nice, income stream for me, but it's something that I thoroughly enjoy doing. So if you're not able to do it yourself, you can obviously get people to help you with it. This was Twinmotion, as say, rendered out without path tracing. So the rendering is not as good as the stills. If I'd had 3 days of rendering time, or a day of rendering time, perhaps, I could have rendered out using the path tracing quality. So I think, guys, there's always a trade-off between quality and time. As soon as you want to go to the ultra-realistic stuff, it does take more time, no doubt about it. But it wasn't really required just for marketing visuals for this project. The client was over the moon with it, and he'll be able to use this to market and sell these properties way before they're built. So it served a purpose, really. But all of this animation was quite nice. It was just rendered as one big animation in Twinmotion as 5 individual parts. And that's something that I really like with Twinmotion. It's a bit like being a film director. You can wander around the project and just set up pre-recorded animations just by clicking keyframing, it's called. Very, very simple to do. So to summarize, if you like animation, I think Enscape can do animations, but not as slickly or to this level as Twinmotion, I think. Sorry, Enscape. I think the renderings for interiors, maybe Enscape has the quality, but with the path tracing on Twinmotion, I think they're pretty level. And I really love the ability to change time of day and lighting and things like weather and sort of shadow as well. So those sort of architectural qualities of light and shadow and kind of atmosphere are quite easy to bring across now in renders rather than just sort of black and white drawings. So it's quite nice, quite a lot going on. Could have had some cars driving around if I'd wanted, but I did it, but they were a bit distracting actually, so I took them away. I think that these days, it won't be long before every household with kids will have a VR headset, and say if Apple get their act together and produce a nice and affordable one, then we'll all get one, no doubt. I think it's a very nice way to sort of immerse yourself and get that feeling. Up until then, though, it works well on the iPad in that you can, on Twinmotion, you could just go to the iPad and you move the iPad around. It's almost like you're in the view. See what I mean? So it's kind of like cheap VR sort of thing. Excellent, guys. I've just got one more thing I really wanted to show you, then we can come back to a debate. So if I may, I just want to talk about my book for a minute. Because it was a nice sort of article. Basically, in the process of writing this book, I learned an enormous amount about real-time rendering. And it's sort of 20 chapters. So we kind of went through every aspect. And this was something that I really realized when you're learning software, it's quite important to do. Try to break it down into different sort of expertise and topics. Like there might be a landscaping side where you want to, really understand how to model site and visualize water and site. And that's kind of a set of skills. Probably the hardest one is lighting, getting the lighting right. And that's something that you can learn, but it comes with a lot of practice and intuition. And then adding detail, that's just a case of adding props and people and trees and cars. And my advice on that is, the first few renders you do, you probably go crazy on these real-time renders because it's such good fun. And when I look back now, I was checking in all sorts of stuff that didn't need to be there. So just sort of tone it down a bit and just put what actually is there. But yeah, definitely. These were a few of the pages from the book. And as I say, I was very fortunate and I worked with some absolutely renowned, world-renowned artists. Powell, he's a genius, this guy, absolutely amazing, great guy. He's been using Twinmotion for years and getting some superb renderings. So I really encourage you to look at his channel, Powell Rimser, absolutely mind-blowing. But yeah, definitely, it's kind of nice. You also have this, what I call non-photorealistic side to Twinmotion, but I kind of prefer to do that in Vectorworks. I'm going to do it. But what is really interesting is with Epic Games, they have acquired a lot of companies recently, Quixel being one of them. And what Quixel do, for example, go around the world scanning 3D objects. You can see they go to Iceland and scan some rocks, or I don't know, go to Greece and scan some Doric columns. But basically, all of these items are 3D scanned, so they're superbly realistic. And all of those assets are available directly for free in Twinmotion. So you can really prop out your projects with assets. They're a bit gamey, to be fair. They're a bit computer gamey as opposed to architectural stuff. They're all a bit grungy, but they're cool. And Enscape has good assets too, but I like those. Twinmotion has also taken on a Sketchfab, which is a huge depository of models. It's basically probably the biggest in the world by far. And Sketchfab models pop into Twinmotion, no problem at all. Good. So these were some path traced images I did on the book. And all I did was nothing lighting wise, absolutely nothing apart from a single HDRI, which is a high dynamic range image, dropped in. And that image does all the lighting and all the reflections in each view. So I could set 4 images up in no time at all with a very different quality of light just by using HDRI and path tracing. So I was pretty chuffed with those. So if you haven't tried HDRI backgrounds and lighting in your rendering software, that is definitely a big tip to get the next level of lighting. They look good. So I was quite proud of that. Good. So I guess a little plug for my book. It was, you know, a year or two old now, but most of it's still pretty relevant. But you can see how easy it is to go from sort of the nighttime image to the daytime image as well. So I was impressed by these two wonderful images from the same model. Pretty impressive. There we go, guys. So that's my sort of take on real-time rendering. Thank you.
Fantastic.
What do you think, guys? You enjoy that?
Very good, very insightful, and quite extraordinary to see the kind of potential of both Vectorworks, and I mean, I'm amazed to see that you can get that kind of renders from a SketchUp model using it in conjunction with Enscape.
Absolutely. Things have come on so much in the last year. The rendering and the hardware, you know, when I go back to my image I showed at the beginning, that 3-day rendering that I did, like a little postage stamp. The hardware's there now. You know, we've got this incredible hardware. Hey, Ed. It's nice to see you.
Hi, Jonathan. Hey, I was thrown by the time change today, guys, but since I'm very familiar with Jonathan anyway. But Jonathan, did you show any of the work you did for me?
Would you mind if I did? I thought I'd better ask before I did.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm good. I'm good for it. I'm good for it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was the sort of interiors modeled in Vectorworks, rendered in Enscape on my PC. I was very, very pleased with the quality of the renders.
Yeah, this one in particular was very good with the client. So if you go back to the other one that shows the fireplace there, so the client, they have a horse farm out in the country northwest of Chicago, and they have like 300 horses. And I was told that you know, just throw a horse in the rendering and they'll love it. So very complete pandering on my part to have that equestrian imagery there. But so Jonathan, by the way, we had a meeting with this client this morning, and we actually looked at some of these images, and we're tweaking some of the colors and the furniture choices and so forth this morning with this.
That's excellent, Ed. Well, I look forward to hearing the results. And I remember it was the World Cup at the time when we were doing this, wasn't it?
Yes, we decided. Yes, we decided we were going to go with the European style of sport on this particular screen.
Some soccer.
Yes.
I mean, and a touch of class, you see.
Yeah, I'm not sure which team it is, but you know, in a way, Ed kind of locked in something there. You know, because you can show the horse and show the TV screen with an animation, even a live football game, why not? You know, bring it to life and have a bit of fun, because I think all clients and architects enjoy that. But yeah, these were great images. I was very pleased with those, Ed. I'm glad they were useful for you. I think there's still work to be done, but the beauty is we can keep doing that in Vectorworks, and we did some nice plans as well.
You mentioned the interior animation, so we've been doing that too. You know, Enscape will allow you to do that, where we've animated TV screens. We've got one client that's a huge West Virginia football fan, so we put a West Virginia game in the background on the TV. So when you walk through, they're seeing their game on the TV. Amazing. And we've got one that's a Vanderbilt football player. We've done the same thing for him. So it's really cool to make it very personal as well. So
I think so, yeah. And you know, we talked about atmosphere, lighting, and all these kind of movement stuff. It's a sort of much more interactive world for architects to present in, and it's definitely fun. It's quite addictive, I'd say. Once you kind of move down that path, you kind of want to keep going down the road. Definitely.
Brilliant. Jonathan, I think that was super as always. So big round of applause for Jonathan. Much appreciated. And if people want to speak with you further, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, just reach out to me via my websites. Probably the best one, info@Jonathan Reeves, or one word, -cad.co.uk, or you can search for realtimerendering.com if you're more on that side. the Vectorworks side or the Twinmotion side. But thanks, Ryan. It's been a pleasure.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. That was thoroughly enjoyable. Always plenty of visual vitamins when you come and talk with us. So
yeah,
and great to see some of Ed's work there as well. Love it.
Excellent.
Brilliant. So thank you very much, everybody. And you know where Jonathan is. And hopefully we'll see you guys all again shortly. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ryan. We'll be in touch. All the best, guys. Lovely to see you all. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.